Tell them, Philip, come on.
Pack your bag. Hey, get ready for the promised land now. You've been down too long. Get ready, we're about to sing a new song. Put a smile on your face. Oh, however dark your night, joy cometh in the morning, and everything is gonna be alright. Oh, no matter what you're going through, yeah. I've tried the Lord. I know He worked out for you.
Come on.
Yeah. Hold on to the Lord.
Tell him.
All of your money is spent, and you can't even pay your rent. Oh, when those bills are due, and you don't know what you're gonna do. Hey, just remember this, but don't you worry, just free your mind. He may not come when you want him, but surely keep right on time. Everybody's saying, yeah. Oh, do I have a witness? Does anybody know that joy? It's coming in the morning. Oh Lord, you may be sick, your bills are due. Trust in the Lord, He's gonna see you through. It's gonna be alright. Even though we have to cry sometimes, I know we've been through for a night. Cry sometimes. Hold on till the morning. It's gonna be alright. Through all your struggles and pain, keep trusting in His name. You can call up on the Lord. Come on, let me hear you. Well, let me hear you say joy. Come on, let me hear you say joy. It'll make you feel better if you just shout joy. I know it's coming in the morning. Oh, shout joy. And when those bills are due, shout joy. And when those friends turn their back on you, shout joy. Joy. Rich dude, the light bill is too. I'm all out of options now. What I'm gonna do? I'm through. I can't cope. Feels like there's no hope. Bill collectors keep calling and yep, I'm dead broke. Wake up, I can see the sun peeping through the clouds now. I knew the Lord was gonna make a way somehow. Check me out in the morning. Keep your head joy. Coming in the morning.
I know it's a lot going on in your life right now.
Joy.
Yeah.
Coming in the morning.
And your pillow's been wet with tears. Because you've been crying all night long. And you can't see your way through. Listen, we got a message for you. Tell them, Philip, come on.
Pack your bag. Hey, get ready for the promised land now. You've been down too long. Get ready, we're about to sing a new song. Put a smile on your face. Oh, however dark your night, joy cometh in the morning, and everything is gonna be alright. Oh, no matter what you're going through, yeah. I've tried the Lord. I know He worked out for you.
Come on.
Yeah. Hold on to the Lord.
Tell him.
All of your money is spent, and you can't even pay your rent. Oh, when those bills are due, and you don't know what you're gonna do. Hey, just remember this, but don't you worry, just free your mind. He may not come when you want him, but surely keep right on time. Everybody's saying, yeah. Oh, do I have a witness? Does anybody know that joy? It's coming in the morning. Oh Lord, you may be sick, your bills are due. Trust in the Lord, He's gonna see you through. It's gonna be alright. Even though we have to cry sometimes, I know we've been through for a night. Cry sometimes. Hold on till the morning. It's gonna be alright. Through all your struggles and pain, keep trusting in His name. You can call up on the Lord. Come on, let me hear you. Well, let me hear you say joy. Come on, let me hear you say joy. It'll make you feel better if you just shout joy. I I know it's coming in the morning. Oh, shout joy. When those bills are due, shout joy. And when those friends turn their back on you, shout joy.
Rich dude, the light bill is too. I'm all out of options now, what I'm gonna do? I'm through, I can't cope, feels like there's no hope. Bill collectors keep calling and yep, I'm dead broke. Wake up, I can see the sun peeping through the clouds now. I knew the Lord was gonna make a way somehow.
Take me out in the morning. Keep me going and joy. Coming in the morning.
In his own way and share with us what he has on his heart. Thank you so much. Let's give him a round of applause. Our president.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Yeah, very, very nice to see all of you. We're grateful to God that He's extended traveling grace so that we can make it here safely without incident or accident. Although there was a serious accident on the highway, and we avoided that. So we're grateful to God that we made it here to have an opportunity to speak to many of our leaders in our fellowship, especially in the state of Texas. So we bid you greetings on behalf of the faculty, the staff, the board, and especially the student body. I have a speech here, and I know y'all don't want to hear a speech. I also have a sermon. I'm sure y'all don't want to hear a sermon, not another one. So what I'll do is I'll just give you a summary of what's happening on the campus, and then we'll just go from there since I'm running a little late and I want to get you guys back on schedule. As you know, January the 17th, 2017, I took the reins as president of Southwestern Christian College. Somebody asked on one occasion, they say, well, why did he take that title, CEO, and not president? I didn't do it because Dr. Evans was still alive and he was on campus, and I didn't want us to look like Kenya. You know, Kenya has 2 presidents, right? So I took the title of CEO just out of respect and in deference to Dr. Evans, and I allowed him to hold on to the title of president. And then once Dr. Evans transitioned, then I took on the title of president CEO. Since then, we came in January the 17th, and at that time, we were in battle financially, and we had some public sanctions that everyone could read about on the internet, because anytime there's a problem with institution within the SACS family, that's Southern Association for Colleges and Schools, Commission on Colleges, that's what the acronym is for. And so there were public sanctions on their website, and we had to also publish those public sanctions on our website. And we had 48 areas of non-compliance. So we had 48 areas of non-compliance, and we had $12 million in debt. Now, some of that debt was because of promises to give. For instance, if I were to ask you for a gift or a donation and you filled out a card and you gave it to us, then I would turn that into the business office. The business office, and there's an account right there, Brother Barry, good to see you, and Sister Barry, and the audience, my friend here, Brother White, and so many others. And as I recognize you, I'll give you some love. So we book those, and you book them because you want your audit to be stronger. So when you book promises to give, they go in your audit to strengthen your audit, right? And because our audit, we had problems, we had what they called a going concern. And what that means is for creditors is that if this institution, Southwestern Christian College, owes you money, then you really have a year, because next year this institution is not likely to be here. So that's what a going concern is. And so we had to, between January the 17th and the time where we had to submit the audit, which was March 31st. Now, so we had to turn it in. They would give it back to us, see if we wanted to respond to their findings. And so by March 31st, 2017, we had to turn in the audit to SACS and to the Department of Ed. But because there was a going concern, we had to make cuts. So we took austerity measures. Is this boring y'all too much? Is it? The reason why I'm telling you this, because I'm trying to scrape away misunderstandings that have happened. And there's noise. There was a lot then, and it's still a little noise now. But I want to explain to you what happened from my perspective and from what can be proven with empirical evidence, namely the audit and the minutes from the board, so on and so forth. And if you go back and look at SACS and our website, you can find this. So we had to make cuts. So they said, if you don't make a certain amount of cuts by the time this audit is submitted, then the IRS could come in and close the school. So just imagine where I am mentally, like, oh, they gave me this to close it. But the one thing the devil doesn't understand, y'all know, Jesus died on the cross. Let me give y'all a little Bible, because we church people, we like the Bible. And it'll wake you up too. When Jesus died on the cross, when he went up Calvary and they crucified him on that cross, that was God at his weakest. But he was still strong enough to defeat Satan at his weakest. So Southwestern was at his weakest. But the devil did not realize that that is God's school. And that's a quote from Dr. Robinson. I heard him say that 30 years ago. He said, Dr. Seamster, this is God's school, isn't it? I said, indeed, it is. It is God's school. So Southwestern is bigger than any person, any family, any group, any constituency, anybody. It's bigger than that. People have sacrificed and given to keep that school alive. People have matriculated in that school. Many of our preachers have matriculated there. You student there, Dr. Robinson, Jonathan Morris, I see him, good to see you, my friend. Some others matriculated there at Southwestern Christian College. Dr. Robinson, his precious wife, they all matriculated at Southwestern. Professors at ACU went to Southwestern's, professors at Pepperdine, professors at Oklahoma Christian, professors at Lipscomb College have matriculated that, and SMU, which is one of the most prestigious institutions of higher learning in the South, is the Harvard of the South. My roommate, and Dr. Robinson knows this, Dr. Fred Aquino, he's the professor of systematic theology there at Perkins School of Theology, all went to Southwestern Christian College. Dr. Evans, Dr. Maxwell, Dr. Foster, Dr. Gibbs, I can keep going. Very, very dynamic, not just preachers, church leaders, worship leaders, civic leaders. We have people who've gone there to become doctors and lawyers and representatives. And so they are doing wonderful things in the kingdom and in our society, making a difference. And so I didn't want to see it close. I know many of you didn't want to see it close. Some people wanted to see it close, not because of any ill intent. Some people thought we should just close it and then reopen it under another name and reconstitute it. But if we had done that, I can understand that on one level, business level, but on another level, you lose your status as being an HBCU if you close. And so we would have lost our status as being an HBCU because all HBCUs, historically black colleges and or universities, would have had to start before or by 1964. So the 1964 legislation that was passed by Dr. King and our very own Dr. Fred Gray and people like that who did a lot of work with President Johnson at the time because Kennedy had been killed in Dallas in '63. Johnson was now president, and the legislation that was passed so that these colleges would have a special status and they would receive federal funding that other schools, namely PWIs, predominantly white institutions, would not receive. And so if we would have closed and reconstituted and opened under another name, we would have been a predominantly perhaps black school, but we would not have been an HBCU. So that's why we went that way. So we made the cuts. Now the cuts were probably aged me 10 years. And I still look like I'm 35 or 40, but no, we are in the church, right? I look a little older than that. But it did age me quite because I know how important it is for people to keep their job. And so I didn't want to hurt anybody, but the numbers were the numbers. And so what we did was we tried to furlough people. And then we say once we got our feet under us, then those people could come back. But people that, for the most part, were people that we had to furlough so that we could show in our audit that we were fiscally or financially solid, okay? And I know I might get some pushback on that, but I'm ready. So let's move on. Let's move on from that. So the first thing I did was I had a town hall meeting with the students, and I asked them, I said, I want to first of all thank you all for not abandoning the school and leaving, transferring, going to some other school, remaining here. I said, now, let me ask you, what is it that you would want me to do? What are the priorities? And we were, I don't know what space we were in, but I wrote down all of the things that they thought should happen. And then I had a plan. It was called the 10 Commitments. So, like trying to relate it to the Bible, like 10 Commandments. And I had a list, and they had a list. And I went about trying to give them everything that they asked for. So they wanted to update the girls' dorm. They wanted to do some things in the boys' dorm. That campus-wide internet service, so on and so forth. They wanted us to improve the food in the dining hall. They wanted us to blah, 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 blah. There were a number of things. And so that's how I went about, that's how I determined what to do. I put the students first. And that's my motive operandi now, is I make the students the priority over what I feel, over what the board thinks, over what the stakeholders think. Because if we don't make them happy, we don't have a school. You understand? So it's not being disrespectful to those of you who support the school, or I didn't want to get out of sorts with the board, but I had to line up with the students so we would keep them. So we went from 40-something students to about 60 plus, and then the pandemic hit. And so we boom, wow, 2 years of pandemic. At that time, I had 2 major back surgeries, so I was doing my business from my bed, sick bed, with a plate in my back, screws in my back, and I was in my bed for 6 months, but working on the school, working through a pandemic, so on and so forth. So we had to keep going. We pushed through that, fought through that, and by God's grace, we were able to fight through that. The pandemic was a very, very, very difficult time for Southwestern and for you, for many, many people. Some people didn't make it through it, and it was a crisis all over the world. So, but God blessed us to get through that. On the other side of the pandemic, what we did was full court press on finishing all of the 48 areas of non-compliance, and we got down to 15. We turned those in. They said you have a certain amount of time to get the 15 done. We got down to 10, from 10 to 5, and from 5 to 0. And a year ago, we received reaffirmation for accreditation for the next 10 years. So that's where y'all supposed to clap right there. All right. And so after the reaffirmation for accreditation, now we have to put an endowment in place so that if we ever go through another crisis, we have the financial resources to do that. So we started an endowment. It has some money in it. AKA contributed $75,000 to the endowment. The board, our board of trustees, they contributed $50,000, and then the rest of it came from different people. And so now we have an endowment that we're trying to build, and it's under the exclusive control of the board. I have nothing to do as president. I have nothing to do with the endowment. So if you ever hear somebody spending it, go talk to the board members. That I have no control over that. Also, we started a full court press on renovating buildings. So all of the buildings were leaking. All of them they just had some issues. Let me just put it there, because we might get somebody signed up on a civil lawsuit and start coughing. I was there then. So we, grace of God, we've renovated the girls' dorm. They all have new air units. They have a new lounge. We gutted the restroom. They have a restroom. They have 2 people in there watching them. The boys' dorm has been renovated. Every building has a new HVAC unit. I think we spent more than $500,000, maybe closer to. The number is over $500,000. It's probably going up there a little bit more, because now we're putting a new system on the library. So every building on the campus has been renovated except the library, and we've started on it. We're 90% complete on the auditorium, and then we have a double wide trailer that I had to fight the city of Terrell to keep. So because Terrell just passed an ordinance that if you remove a trailer, you can't replace it with one. So I begged them to let us keep that double wide so we could turn it into a barbershop, a salon, so the young people could go inside of there to get the haircuts and get their hair done, and wouldn't be putting that hair and other stuff down in the, in the regular thing, blah, blah, blah. So Southwestern is doing good. We're in the middle of preparing for this audit. We don't know how this one's going to look, but I believe it's not a financial deal. It's more of a putting things in the right bucket, right? So, because we have to, anytime you receive federal funds, it's called a single audit issue. So each one of those grants that we receive, they test 80 to 100% of everything in this. We have any accounts in here? Any one account? Okay, let me stop talking about numbers then. Deborah, which one? Well, the grants, one thing about the grants, some of the grants were given so we can improve technology, anything that would prevent the spread of COVID, anything that would improve our ability, our students' ability to learn in non-traditional environments. Like there's a synchronous program, so if you want to audit a class, instead of you auditing and you're just having one-on-one with the professor and you're emailing, you could sit in the class even though you were in another city or state, and so you would be in front of a computer. So if the class meets from 1 to 2, right, then everyone who's taking that class would sit in front of their computer, and now they can have engagement with the professor and their classmates, right? Because now, I don't know about you, but I learn by having conversation. I'm gonna learn more. I can learn by just being on my own, but I need an interlocutor. I need people talking to me and challenging what I say, and I'm challenging what they're saying, and we going back and forth with the professor. And I learn like that, and a lot of other people do. And so we put that program in. What it wouldn't let us do was give people raises. So what I did to get around that, I said, what we'll do is we'll give the students a scholarship and we'll pay for their bills. So if we get their 100% of their tuition, we have extra money and we can use that money without it being under the oversight of the government. So there was a little dance to get around that. And so we did that. And so now we have security on the campus. We have a police department, 24-hour police department. So our kids are safe because there were a lot of threats against HBCUs. And now we have a criminal justice program in partnership with the city of Terrell, so we can build a police academy. Now, before I became president, I had an organization. I still have it. It's kind of, I have to send the papers in to get it back going, but it was the Justice League of Texas. And what we were doing, we was fighting against mass incarceration. We was fighting against issues like OIS's, officer-involved shootings. And so I said, now how can I continue to be faithful to what the mission God has given me before this assignment? So I met with the city leaders, and we decided that we would do a police academy. And so instead of protesting the police, what we would do is train the police. And Southwestern would train them. And those officers who would be coming through the police academy would study at Southwestern, so they would have social contact with the students, and now there's no fear. See, one of the reasons why there's a book like Why Police Shoot, Why Police Officers Kill. I can't think of the name of the author, but it's a brilliant book, and you ought to buy it. I just can't think of the author's name. But the main reason is the police chief has to be all out against that. You know, that kind of behavior, because it trickles down to the other officers, the lieutenants, the sergeants, so on and forth, and the traffic cops, so on and so forth. And if this person is right, then it's going to trickle down. The other reason is that there's a cultural difference. Now, we know how our kids dress and act, and they have do-rags on, and sometimes their pants a little bit low for our taste, and they talk to each other in a foreign language. We don't understand that, but it causes fear for a lot of officers. But if they are in the classroom with them and playing basketball with them and having lunch with them, a brunch with them, a dinner with them, they're showing up at games and they're talking to them, then it removes that kind of cultural gap. And so that's one of the things we're proud of. Another thing that we just had done is that 100% of our courses can be offered online. So you don't have to move to Terrell to go to Southwestern and secure a degree. So that's another huge thing that we've done, and we thank God for that. The next move is to do something in the medical field, like medical, what do you call it, coding, medical coding, where when they leave Southwestern, they can get a degree, but they're also guaranteed a job paying $70,000 to $80,000 a year. And so we're trying to work out all of the kinks with Microsoft. And so with Microsoft, if we can work this out, not only will the students graduate from Southwestern, whether they are ministers or not, they can go right into the job force and be guaranteed a job because they have this Microsoft training, and Microsoft will give them a job, or find them a job. So they have a job placement program, not just a training, but they have a job placement program to make sure that they have employment and they make $70,000 plus. So we're working on that at this moment. We also got our I-20 back. The I-20, just like the highway, that's all you have to remember, the highway, I-20, and it's our ability to recruit international students. And then one of the last things, and we did, and it was in the press release, is that we can have a distance learning program. So now we can have Southwestern Christian College Tyler. We can have Southwestern Christian College Dallas. We can have Southwestern Christian College Houston. So if somebody still needs the face-to-face learning pedagogy, then they can do it that way. They can go online, or they can do just, take independent courses, independent study courses, so on and so forth. And so that's where we are. Now, to speak to now I'm going to end where Deborah ended, just with one little caveat. I just got the numbers from Keisha. We're at 126 and not 111. So that's a beautiful thing. So we're at 126. What would secure Southwestern is that we could get to 200. Now, we can max out the student population. One of the reasons why the population was, and there's one of the pillars of Southwestern coming through the door, Dr. Howie. Hey, how you doing? Great, doctor. Good to see you. He cleaned it in the Board of Health, didn't he? And so what we'll do is, so we had to put one student in each room to lower the spread, to eliminate the spread of COVID. Now they can be in two in a room. And if we put two in a room, Southwestern maxes out on campus population at 205. We can only house 205 students. Now so we need to get to 205, and we can only get to two. Hey, Brother Williams, good to see you, doctor. Great doctor, my friend. So we need to get to 200, and we can only do that by doing the Growth Southwestern campaign. All of their hours transfer. Southwestern is in a good place academically. We have our accreditation with the same accrediting body as SMU, University of Texas, Texas A&M, Rice, any other school you can name in Texas. We're in the same family, and it's very hard to get accredited by SACS, and it's hard to keep it. And so we want to keep it at this point, but I believe 175, 200 students of Southwestern would be in a good place. And then the $2.5 million we lost when Dr. Evans was the president, because we failed under the 200 student threshold, we lost $2.5 million. And they say we may be able to reapply for that $2.5 million. And so then our payroll, our income can sustain a higher payroll, and then we can give people health insurance, retirement. They can participate in a retirement program. We can go out and shop insurance, so on and so forth. One more little final thing. We have 3 vehicles we own outright. The insurance for them is $26,000 a year. Our insurance for all of the buildings on campus, y'all want to guess what that is? Y'all, anybody want to guess? It's almost $200,000 a year just for insurance. So when people say, where the money going? You can go down there and see the money. You go walk on that campus now, you can see it, and it's lit up like a Christmas tree. I know we're in the Church of Christ, so we don't believe in Christmas trees. We love the one that died on the tree. Right? Right. Not the gifts under the tree, but we love the one that died on the tree. Right? And so, but it's lit up, it's well lit. We've added fencing on the side where West End is, so we don't get as much traffic from the community and stuff like that, And so Southwestern is doing very well. I'm going to stop right here because I'm probably over my time, and I'm going to take questions that you care about because I've covered a lot of stuff. So, yes, sir. Brother White, yes, sir.
Just so we can hear. From a biblical standpoint and the churches of Christ, how are we, as Southwestern was a foundational resource, how are we faring in the equipping of our younger men for ministry?
That is a beautiful question. Beautiful question. Okay, so, as you know, we had the most prolific historian in our fellowship, and he's world-renowned beyond our fellowship, and I mean that sincerely, and he's not paying me for this commercial, is Dr. Edward Robinson. So he took the church down here, so we had to rebuild, right? So, but God blessed us that Sachs would accept my credential to keep the Bible department for right now. We have another guy who's one of the top grammarians in the country. His name is Dr. Femi Adedihimi. He's a brilliant scholar and a grammarian. So he teaches Greek and Hebrew under the English department and not the Bible department. So we moved his foreign language courses to the English department and not the Bible department. Then we have people like Dr. Stanley Tarbert, who teaches at Pepperdine. We have Justin Carter, who's working on a PhD at Chicago Theological Seminary. He's with Leonardo Gilbert up in Chicago. He teaches online. We have Felder, who's working on a PhD at Perkins School of Theology. I teach. Dr. Foster is teaching. So our Bible department is stronger now in terms of credentialing. Now, you talking about Dr. Evans, Maxwell, Foster, and people like that. I mean, those people come along every 100 years because they were just on another level. But we do have a very, very, very strong Bible department, and I'm proud in the Lord of it because that's one of the reasons I took on this assignment, because I didn't want us to lose our Bible department, where most of our most gifted preachers are going to, if not secular schools, to procure their graduate studies or postgraduate studies. They would get their foundation at Southwestern, and it would strengthen them and stabilize them. So when they got to those other institutions, they wouldn't be tossed to and fro with every wind and doctrine, So we have a very strong program. We just renovated all of the cottages. So we're going to start giving Bible students the same kind of scholarships we give athletes, so that many of our Bible students can matriculate and graduate from Southwestern without life-changing debt. And that's something that wasn't going on when I was there, and many of the men in this room who went to Southwestern. So, and just one more thing, and I'm holding up a warning sign. Our fellowship is going to continue to move to the left theologically unless we start sending young men to Southwestern and women to study the Bible. We're just going to keep moving to the left, and a lot of churches of Christ are going to get weaker. They're going to get more liberal. We already got churches of Christ in this state. I won't call any names. They got female elders. They got women not only passing the trades, but they praying over the elements. They got female deacons in these churches. Some people are conflating the instrumental music thing and saying the argument is that the text that we use to argue for the use of instrumental music, those texts are speaking to something else. But I know where to look, and many of these sound preachers in here, you know where to look to deconstruct that, because the first century church couldn't have had instruments, especially after 60, well, I know after 70, and I would say as early as 60, 66, 64. When did Nero start persecuting? When was that? 64. So Nero's, was that, I'm right? Am I just okay? 64 Nero, and then 70 Titus rode into Jerusalem on 70, and he destroyed the temple. So the temple use of it was abandoned. They didn't allow it in the synagogue. People worship in their homes. They are being hounded and hunted and harassed by the Roman government. So they trying to be quiet, so you know they're not making noise. And I got you. Let me make this one more point. So, y'all don't like my point. I'm just letting you know I do know it. So the other the other part of it is that they didn't allow it in the synagogues. They were on the run. The edict of Milan was signed into 320 by Constantine, which ended systematic persecution. 323, they had the first ecumenical council at Nicaea. They didn't have it, and then all of the religions, the monotheistic religions. Now, the Jewish temple had been destroyed, so you know it ain't being played over there, right? Islam came 600 years later. They don't play it today. The church that's the most like churches of Christ right now in the world is the Eastern Orthodox Church, or the Russian Orthodox Church, is not in there. So you had a whole group of religious movements that didn't use instruments. So it wasn't just churches of Christ. So you can get biblical evidence, extra biblical evidence. So Seamster, where's the evidence in Scripture? Well, in the epistle, the nature of it is, if there's a problem, somebody writes to Paul, Peter, or some other authority. They say, hey, we facing problems at Corinth, at whatever. Can you please write back and tell us how to address it? They would write back, address it, and then we have a biblical response of what we call epistles, right? But if it wasn't a problem, they didn't talk about it. So that the point that is not there is enough evidence to imply it wasn't an issue. So they didn't have to tell anybody not to do it because nobody wanted to do it or was trying to do it. So there's extra biblical, historical, and textual evidence. But we are moving away from that. And we're moving away from that because we have some strands of the restoration movement. They're trying to come back together. And there's a unity movement. We're for that. I'm for that. But let me ask you this. Who's being called to the table? Is William being called? Are you being called? Dr. Howard being called? Dr. Robinson being called? Who are they talking to? So why aren't they talking to our senior ministers if they want to? I'm talking about the unity part. Why aren't they in communication with the most capable and seasoned and prepared, and those who've seen the ebb and flows of change across the years in our fellowship? Why haven't they been called to the table? You don't have to call me, but you ought to be calling somebody else if you're talking about being a unity movement, because we know how the game is played, you see. And so I just want us to be careful about that. I'm not judging anybody. I love everybody. I want everybody to do well. because if the Church of Christ does well, we all as ministers of the church, we do well, and the congregations we serve, that we are privileged to serve, they do well. But we got to have more conversation. But Southwestern holds the same position it did when Dr. Evans was at the helm. And that's the commitment that I made to him before he died. He asked me what was my position, what would I do? I said, Doc, I'm gonna hold the line. He said, you gonna make sure they don't close the school? I say, as long as I'm able to keep it open, I'm gonna do everything in my power. But I'm saying today, I can't do it by myself. You can't do anything great by yourself. So I'm appealing, like Deborah, to you to help us. Now, you can write us a $100 check, and Deborah's going to take a document and send you a thank you letter. But if you send us a student, you just send us $25,000. We're going to take your 100. We need it. But one student, 2 students is somebody's salary. So we're not trying to grow the school to get rich. My salary is set. I've been making the same thing. When I first came, I didn't make anything. But my salary is set. I'm not going to make any more money. I don't want any more money. I don't need any more money. But the people that work down there do. And we need to make sure that they are able. And we can't afford to keep losing the best and the brightest and the most brilliant among us, like Dr. Edward Robinson. We can't keep losing them to other institutions because they have a family to take care of. Okay. So did I answer your question? I know I went over. Somebody back there had a question. Who was that? Yes,
I
sir.
think I forgot my question.
Well, you need to go get treated as soon as you get home now, Doc.
I know Deborah says she needs some more money, so. But no, my question was,
Yes,
how
sir.
many Bible majors do you have, and do you see an increase in young men coming to school wanting to major in Bible, or do you see a decrease, or it's basically just stagnant? What is your observation?
Yes, sir. I do understand your question. It's a great question. It is stagnant. Now, when I got there, we had 2. Now we have last semester we had 8, but 2 or 3 of them graduated. And one of them down there with Charlie McClendon in Florida. We have another Bird. I think he has enough hours to graduate, or he graduates in May. But we have some of them, but they are not on the campus. I think we got 4 on the campus, and the rest of them are taking courses online. There's a guy out of Florida taking it. Brother Louis Lugo sent him. We have a couple of more online. What is the young man's? The guy that sings, he's over there with Ramon. Is that Hunter? Yeah. Hunter is there. One of my deacons is there, Dwayne Pugh. We have some on the campus, about 4 on the campus, and then we have 3 to 5 online. But this is why we are offering scholarships to make sure that they can afford it. And we have renovated housing to make sure that they are comfortable when they get there. Let's treat them like we treat the athletes. And I was an athlete, so, but we need to take care of our ministerial students because they're more likely, if we help them, they're going to give back. And they're going to encourage the congregations where they serve to give back. Athletes, I'm an exception. I'm not the rule, unfortunately. We leave and we don't look back, because we're not there to get no Christian education. We there to get a scholarship so we can go on to the next level, so on and so forth. So that's what we're doing. But across the board, this is not an excuse. I'm just giving you the facts as I understand them. Across the board, people are not going to ministry because it's not enough money for them to take care of their families. And that's why we're trying to do the police academy. They can get a degree in that. They can do the Microsoft Word. They can get a job in that. And some other things we're trying to do articulation agreements so they can do ministry, also do something else. And I even thought about doing a trade school so they can get a trade like bricklaying, being roofers, electricians, so on and so forth. And then they could take that skill, which is a marketable skill, and they could use that to make sure they can take care of their families. Because 50% of all churches of Christ have 50 members or less. And then I think the next 30% is like 100 or less. And then 10% is like 200, maybe not 250. And then I think it's 5% at 200, and only 1% have more than 250. And I think there are 7 black churches of Christ in the United States that have 500 or more. And we can name them right here tonight. It's like 5. I think Williams, Tim Daniels, Rodney, Doolin, Central up in Baltimore. Who am I missing?
Greenville Avenue.
Yeah, of course, Greenville Avenue. Of course, that's we know that's another level. But they up there, you know what I mean? They up there. But so you see, so the churches of Christ among blacks and whites is in decline. And then over the pandemic, a lot of white churches closed and sold their buildings to denominational churches, and or they sold them to investors who are going to knock them down and do schools, condominiums, and stuff like that. But excellent questions. Any other questions? Can I ask?
Dr.
Go ahead. Hey, preacher, good to see you, man.
Good to see you.
Yes, sir.
Just thinking in terms of some of the institutes that the different colleges and universities have, like, there's the Cyber Institute at Abilene Christian that does ministerial research, and different institutions have similar. Is there any thought to some type of institute or research arm of Southwestern, particularly as it relates to African American congregations, since most of your data is about either Christendom in general or Churches of Christ in general, and not so much the African American experience?
We don't have anything like the Cyber. What's the name? Cyber Institute. Yeah, I think they did that after I left, but we have someone who does institutional research, but it's not specifically locked in on what you're talking about. But we're always open to people like you who know how to do research, and others maybe forming a committee. Yeah, I give you work, brother. You know how to do it. People ask you something at a business meeting, they say, we ought to be doing something. I say, when you starting? But look, my plate is full, but I know you, I'm serious. But we do need that. Oh, another good thing that is happening, we're going to start republishing the Echo. The Echo is coming. We already have some articles ready to go. And there are some other papers. I think they're trying to revive the Revivalists and some other papers Dr. Washington has. I can't think of the name of his. What's the name of Dr. Washington's paper? I can't think of the name of it, but he has a paper. But we need to start writing and getting the information out, so there's some cohesiveness with all of our fellowships. Dr. Robinson has agreed to write, Stanley Talbot is writing an article. I'm writing one. I got an article that I want to publish about Dr. Evans. It's called The GOAT. So we're asking other people to write, and we're going to try to publish it twice a year, and then Brother Darrell Baldry is going to try to help get us some, what do you call those things? When people buy ads, what does they call that part?
Advertisement.
Yeah, he's going to do the advertisement part of. Thank you, brother. Yeah.
Hey, I'm just here to help.
I was born in January. It was cold, so I'm not clairvoyant.
I was born in January. It's also same month.
So just so we got a Jarlin, Dansby Fox is helping with that, and so we got a lot of people where we're going to start publishing and try to get some cohesiveness.
Brother Seamster.
Yes, sir.
You said that communication piece and getting the information out to other churches of Christ, other congregations, for possible financial support besides National Dinner Day or something of that nature there. So during the state lectureship or opportunity for a conference or time to talk with other congregations about possible continual financial support for Southwest Christian would be something that would be possibly beneficial to the support and the financial growth that y'all can take and use and do whatever y'all going to do with it to aid and benefit the students. Because in education, the bottom line is the student. That's the bottom line. It's not the administrative staff, it's not the people there, but it's actually the student that's an investment back that they give back. So is there some type of plan y'all have in place, maybe?
Yeah, we have scholarships. We have more scholarships available to students. And they're not really competitive. They just need to apply for them. And but also when people like, if this church, for instance, put a scholarship in place, you can put the criteria in place. So who qualifies? Who's able to get this? They have to be out of East Texas. They have to be a member of the church. It needs to be a young lady. It needs to be somebody studying ministry. You guys can decide that. Or you can let me decide, whichever. But I want to do what the donor wants us to do. And it's illegal for us to take your gift that you've earmarked and use it for something else. That's something I will never do. You know what I mean? Because they come after you. You know what I mean? Especially if you make 50 cents over minimum wage. They get you. I'm right above minimum wage by 50 cents. So I don't want them messing with me. Yes, sir. Dr. Robinson.
Dr. Seamster, very quickly here, what would you recommend that congregations, local congregations, do to encourage more of our young men to give serious consideration to entering the preaching ministry? What would you, if you would, to advise local congregations? Because we do have a serious preacher shortage across the brotherhood. You just look at the Christian Chronicle, see all those churches looking for ministers, just from your perspective. And I know that's where Southwestern plays a major role, because when you and I were students there, we had multiple ministerial students, but now, what can the local churches do? That's just my thought.
Okay. I'm gonna answer your question, but let me first of all say what would really help our audit is that if you put Southwestern in your budget, and it could be $100. You don't have to put they look at it quantitatively, not qualitatively. It doesn't have to be a $10 million gift. It doesn't have to be a $100 million gift. It could be a $100 gift. It could be a $500 gift. Put that in your budget, and then we can put on the audit that we have 150 churches that have Southwestern in their budget. That's one thing. Second, when Southwestern comes to you to sing or whatever, have some students there for us to talk to so we can share with them about what's happening at Southwestern. I think the most important thing is that those of us, you and I and others, we need to speak positively about the school. We hear too much stuff that they didn't give me enough food in the dining hall, and that was in 72. It's people mad about stuff that happened in 1972. 1983, Dr. Howard didn't give me a clearance slip to take my, Dr. Howard didn't give me a clearance slip for me to take my finals. But I didn't argue with him. I got on the phone, Dr. Dansby, I'm $400 short. I need $2. I'm gonna ask my mama for $100, and I'm gonna ask Dr. Maxwell for $100, and I got it. And I took that $400 in there. Dr. Howard said, you could take your exam. Took it to Dr. Davis. He allowed me to take my exam. Ain't no sense to fighting over being mad about stuff like that. We frozen in time. We got to grow up. We got to mature in the Lord. We got to read the book of Hebrews where he said we got to move on. So we got to stop speaking negatively about the school. In the school, who wants to go to a school? Who wants to say to somebody, I went to a school that's closed, that doesn't exist anymore? So we have to, those of us who went to Southwestern, we have to fight for it. And I'm passionate about it. Because one day I'm going to have to pass this baton. And I want to pass it to somebody who loves it. Because it's not just who's smart, It's who loves it, because you have to love Southwestern to work there. You got to love Southwestern. I'm telling you. So can y'all please make a commitment to God? I know we don't make vows in Churches of Christ, but can we make a commitment? Can we say, Lord, I'm going to speak positively about the school? And if you speak negatively about me, some people can't separate me from the school. So don't say nothing about me. Just tell me you got a problem with me. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to apologize to you. I'm sorry if I've said something. I apologize. I'm publicly apologize. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Pray for me. I mean that, really. I'm a human being with contradictions, idiosyncrasies, prognostication, blindnesses. I'm just like everybody else, so I make mistakes. And there's some people that I've hurt that I love. And I'm sorry about that. Okay? But don't let that get in the way of Southwestern, because it's bigger than a person. Right? All right. And I don't know about y'all, Dr. Ervin made a lot of people mad keeping the brotherhood together, but don't we miss him right now? I miss him right now because Dr. Evans fought hard to keep us together. And sometimes he sent you that blue letter, that letter with that blue paper. You knew you had done something. Well, let me tell you, I done got that blue paper. Because he was on me. He was on me. And he met me. He said, Dr. Seamster, man, he said, Brother Seamster, son, what you doing? I said, Doc, I'm just trying to grow my church. I ain't trying to mess with nobody. I ain't on no crusade. He said, you got to take your foot off the gas. And I said, well, what specifically you need me to do? And he gave me a list of things. I said, yes, sir. See, when you talk to a young man and he respects you, you talk to him one-on-one and say, hey, I love you. You're a good guy. I love you. But you hurting our brotherhood. And sometimes you're not theologically wrong. You got some freedom in Christ, but is it good for the fellowship? You can't outrun the people, because if you outrun them by a long distance, they can't differentiate between whether or not you the friend or the foe. You're too far away. You're too far ahead. So we got to bring up members along. And so instead of running, we might have to just walk. Yeah, but some of y'all skip fast, dog, y'all. Yeah. Get one of them old sisters, old preachers, and hold them by the hand. Because these old preachers, these older seasoned preachers, they know. They've seen it. And some of you older preachers, mentor some of these young men. They need you. Some of you sisters, mentor some of these young ladies. They need you. And pray for your preacher. Pray for him. He's a good guy. Pray for his wife. Pray for all these preachers and their wives. Pray for all these leaders. We have a real important responsibility, and it weighs heavily on us. We need each other. So finally, let's just love each other, okay? And I think everything will be all right. Thank you so much for your. Oh, you got another question? Oh, yeah. I'm trying to get Dr. Robertson back on time. Okay. It's 3:00. Okay. We have an auditorium. It's going to, we're going to have a ribbon cutting, probably a musical in April, graduation in May. The National Single Seminar is coming to Southwestern this year. But we have some seats in the auditorium, and there are 1,100 seats. And the first 10 rows, those seats are $1,000 each. And rows from 11 to the back, they are $500 each. If we would purchase a seat, now you can get one for your church, but get you one. I'm going to get the church one. Now that's good. I appreciate it. But you need one. So we could put Emmanuel and Sister White on there. Yeah. $500, that ain't going to hurt you. You're going to put that in your gas tank in that big old car you got out there. So, no, I'm teasing. I don't know what kind of car he has. So let's purchase a chair. That'll generate about $700,000. We'll have enough money to finish the library, and then all of the buildings on campus will be 100% renovated. So please make up your mind to do that. I want to thank you guys who support the school. Thank you so much. Thank the leaders in this church, men and women. Thank you so much. We're going to do our best. And if you need my phone number, if you have anything you'd like to offer, recommend, see, or have us to consider, I'll be happy to give you my phone number, and I will take your phone call, and I'll do my best to implement it. And if we can't, I'll try to explain why we can't right now. But we'll do everything we can to make Southwestern the kind of school you can be proud of and you can support. Now I'm going to turn the program back over into the most capable hands of the leadership, and congratulations to the leadership of the Texas State Lectureship. You guys are doing an outstanding job. Absolutely.
Once again, we want to thank you for joining us in our live stream worship service on today. We pray and trust that this service has been both pleasant and profitable for you. We pray that the next time we gather together at the North Tennehaw Church of Christ, we pray that you will come and be with us in person. We would love to have you. In the meantime, feel free to follow us on our Facebook page for all of our upcoming events. May the good Lord continue to bless you and your family and keep you in His care. That is our prayer.
Oh, Lord.